So I don't know what I think about that song. It's my wife's favorite song, and we've been playing it in the truck, and I'll look over, and she's like, I'm like, what? That's a lot of pressure. I'm like, just drive, and we'll get back to that later. But hey, welcome to Flatirons. Some new stuff today. So we're going to kick off a new series here in a few minutes. But here's something else new kicking off. So we've been 3 campuses, one here, one in Denver, one in Genesee. And will you just join me for the first time welcoming our Aurora campus right now with us? They're joining us. There. So hi. Everybody wave at them. Yeah, so cool. The 9 o'clock service went great. Now it's the 11 o'clock service down there, and it's just so good. So if you know people that live down in the southeast end of the Denver area, just point them towards Cherokee Trail High School, and we kicked off today. Here's something else that's happening. So we have a lot of different. I don't think there's like a typical Flatirons person. I mean, look around the room. We have all shapes, sizes. We have everything here, right? But we have a big part of this church is this group, and you're between the ages of 18 and 30, and so we got our creative department together, and it's like, what do we call those 18 to 30s? And so we decided to call them, write this down, young adults. Right? If you think that'll stick, that'll catch on. And so we really care about our young adults. And so starting on October the 4th, we're going to ask all of our young adults, they're able to do this from all, I love saying this, from all 4 of our campuses to go down to our Denver campus, which is in downtown Denver. And we're going to get together. I'm going to be there teaching on October the 4th. And we're just going to start leaning into what this whole Jesus thing has to do and impact your lives and your stage of life. Whether you're married or single, whether you're in college or you're already working a job or still living at home, that doesn't matter. If you're in the 18 to 30, here's why this is so important. Just a few moments from now, we're going to hand the world, us old people, we're going to hand the world to you, and we're going to hand the church to you and say, now it's yours, take care of it. And so you have to know who you are and what God's call is on your life, because you're going to run the world, and God's going to trust you with that. So we got to get prepared for that. So that's what we're going to be unpacking there. So October the 4th, we're going to be down at the Denver campus. If you're 18 to 30, again, whatever you do, if that's the only filter, 18 to 30, then you come and join us. Now, out in the lobby of all 4 of our campuses today, there's a presence out there. There's some banners or the information center. If you're 18 to 30 and you want to know more about that, about getting plugged into that, whether you can make it to the October 4th or not, go out there and just ask for some information. Now, let me talk to some other people, because some of you are in here going, well, I'm 55, but in my heart, I'm a young adult. Nope, that's creepy. We're not talking to you, okay? You're not. We're not that anymore. But you have a heart for that generation. Like, I want to spend the rest of my life pouring into young leaders, all right? So if there's something in that you're going, I have something I want to give, I want to mentor, what do you need from me, even though I'm not in that 18 to 30 group? You stop out there as well and go, how can I help with that? And we're going to have groups all up and down the Front Range, all over the Denver area, meeting together wherever they live to kind of unpack this, okay? So just lean into that and try that out. So we're going to start a new series today. And so I'm going to tell you about the journey that I've been on over the last several months that gets us to this Madmen series that I'm going to start, and we're going to go for the next month on, all right? So I'm going to take you on this little ride with me, and I'm going to tell you a bunch of stories, and you go, how's that related to that? And it's not going to feel like it is, but it is, and now I'm going to bring it back together because that's what I do, all right? So let me just tell you a little about the journey that brings us to this moment right now. So last week I met with my doctor, and I'm going to have surgery on my shoulder. I'm going to have it replaced. Now, back in November, I had it cleaned out and stuff like that. We thought that would fix it. It's not, okay? But so I'm going to be bionic. I'm going to be a bionic man. It's going to be great. Anyway, so they're going to do that. But that got me thinking is that 10 months ago, some of you were here for this, but 10 months ago, I stood on this stage, and it was the weekend after Thanksgiving, and I just said, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well physically. My body feels like it's falling apart. Emotionally, I'm in a really, really dark place. Relationally, Rob and I are kind of struggling. We're not on the edge of anything, but we're just not connected. And spiritually, I'm just dried up, and I'm just not doing well. And I remember saying, first of all, I got a lot of feedback from people going, well, finally, something I can relate to. Because a lot of times you go to church, and the person up here tries to present themselves as, I fixed all my problems, and you should be like me. Aim higher than this, all right? So anyway, let me tell you the key of why I'm still here doing what I'm doing today. I'm part of a small group of really strong men who tell me the truth. They tell me the truth, hard truth in my life. And over the last 10 months, they've been building into me and teaching me hard truth. Not mean truth, but they don't pull punches. They don't give me a pass because I'm their buddy, all right? So over the last 10 months, I've gotten a lot of truth and a lot of grace from these men, and they've built into me. And because of that, that's why I'm up here today. And if they weren't a part of my life, I don't know. I really don't know. The reason I tell you that is over the next several months, I'm going to bring that up over and over and over again. If you're trying to do life with just you or just this person you're married to in isolation, I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be hard no matter what. It's almost going to be impossible if you're going to try to do it in isolation. That's just reality. So that brings me here today. Now, let me tell you another story. Okay, so I've been married for 33 years. Last night I said 35 years. I got corrected. All right, so wow. All right, so been married for 33 years, been doing ministry for about the same amount of time. I've always patted myself on the back because I can look back over 33 years and I've never taken all my vacation time. And I've taken pride in that, okay? And see, this is just like any other job. When you first get the job, you get this much, 2 weeks of vacation, and there are a few years, you get 3 and 4. And I'm up to 5. But I look over the last 33 years, I've never taken all my vacation time. And I spiritualize it. I say stuff like, well, you know, I'm a pastor and there's all these people that are broken and hurting, they need me, and how can I just go on vacation and leave them, you know? But spiritual is not why I haven't taken my vacation. The other is I get a little self-righteous and I look around and I go, how can you be such a selfish, lazy person that you take money and go spend it on your family, go lay on a beach somewhere when there's all these needs in the world? You're so selfish and lazy. The truth is I was broke and couldn't afford to go on vacation, but we'll just talk about that another time. But anyway, but none of that's why I didn't take a vacation. Let me tell you why I haven't taken a vacation, all my vacation time anyway, in 33 years. I'm a workaholic and I find my value in working hard and having people tell me I do a good job. And I don't think I'm alone in that. But here's what I've noticed about lazy, selfish people, all right? When you're empty and worn out on the inside and just have nothing to give on the inside, you're actually the lazy, selfish person if you don't take a break, because there's people in your life that need you to be full of something to give them. They need you to get some rest so that you can actually fully show up in their life. And so that's all been stirring around in my head over the last several months. So I made a decision in the spring is that I took 6 weekends off in a row. I didn't teach 6 weekends. And I got the emails, are you dead? Did you leave? Did you move away? I'm here, all right? So I took 6 weekends off. Now, I didn't disappear, all right? A couple times I did, but in 6 weeks, I would come to the office, and Ben's one of our new teachers, and I'd sit down with him and we'd work through his talk together because he wants all that coaching, and I thought he did great. And I'd check with my lead team and go, okay, what's happening here? And we're moving into this season and all that kind of stuff. So I was engaged, but I took a break. I took a breath and I got some rest, all right? And I did check out for 2 weeks. The first time I checked out was the first week of July. I took my wife to Cancun. I went to the beach. I found a hotel, doesn't allow kids. Awesome, I recommend it, all right? And we walked down the beach and there'd be people with kids and we go let's go back to our hotel, all right? And so it was so great. We did nothing except we had amazing restaurants and amazing food and a swim up bar and this awesome, hotel room, this brand new hotel, stuff like that. It was just great. And this is gonna disappoint you, but I'm a pastor and I took my Bible, I put it in my suitcase. I didn't open it all week. I'll be honest with you, I didn't. I'd like to say I didn't. I did call out to Jesus a couple times. Thank you, Lord. That's none of your business, though. It's okay, right? See, that's why you should have your kids in kids ministry, because it's me, all right? And I'm really thankful for my wife. I really was. So I had 6 days of just really connecting with Robin down in Cancun. Then we came back, and then that following Monday, I drove her to DIA, and she got on an airplane. About every year or so, all the women of her family, and there's like 1 million of them, they all get together somewhere in the country and just talk. And all right, and so I don't even want to be in that state. And so I put her on a plane and went, God bless, go. All right, and so then she went to Michigan, and then I did something I'd never done before. I got in my truck, and I drove up to my cabin up in the mountains, and when I left the airport, I turned off the radio, I turned off music, and when I got to the cabin, for 6 days, I turned off all technology. I turned off TV, I turned off internet. Don't clap, it was horrible. The only time I turned on the internet and I text Robin twice a day, 6 in the morning, 6 at night. I'm alive. I didn't kill myself with a chainsaw, just so you know. All right, so then I turned it right back off. I didn't check email. I didn't check Facebook. I didn't check any of those things at all. And this was the hardest thing is I didn't even turn on music. And I'm addicted to music. I get in my truck, I turn on music. I go home, I turn on music. I turn on the TV. I have noise in the background all the time. So I'm in the woods, up in the mountains. For 6 days, all I hear are birds. There's so many dang birds up there, right? And wind, and there's this creek going all the time, all right? And so it's wind and trees and creek and Jesus. And about 3 days in, I thought I was going to lose my mind. I was going to jump off a cliff because I was like in detox from all this. And at 3 days in, I thought, I can't do this. I'm just going to turn on. I missed the All-Star game. That's how much I love the Lord. And so anyway, at the end of 6 days, though, something happened. I think I know when it happened, but at the end of 6 days, I I just felt peace and joy and full. And I feel like I'm in a better place spiritually than I can ever remember being. I feel like I love this church. I love my life. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my I just love what God's doing. So that brings me here today. I'm in a really good place here. The third thing is that in the middle of that break, our media team said, hey, Jim, we're going to buy some cameras, but we want to rent some first to make sure that they're the ones that we want to buy so we can do all this stuff at all the campuses. I went, okay. Do it. And he goes, well, here, would you mind coming in right here at the Lafayette stage? We want to set up something right here in the middle of the week, and then we want to set up these cameras, and we want you we want to do a video shoot of you. I'm like, of what? And they're like, we want you to talk about Flatirons. Flatirons in 2 minutes. That's what we want you to do. You want Flatirons in 2 minutes? Like, yeah, just like if nobody had ever heard of Flatirons, how would you describe Flatirons in 2 minutes? And so I went, okay. All right, so this past July, we set up a big thing here at the Lafayette campus, got all these new cameras, and it said, this Flatirons in 2 minutes, and this is what we came up with. So probably the first thing that you'll notice about Flatirons, or maybe you heard about Flatirons, is we're that church with the band and the music and the big screens and the lights, and that's us. We love our music. We love it loud. So yep, we're that church. We're also, maybe you heard about us, we're that church that really runs after what it looks like to be a good man, a good husband, a good father, a good friend. We just really believe that if a lot of the problems of the world, especially for women and kids, they just go away if we just figure some stuff out. And probably beyond all that, besides going after this or the music or the lights, we're about Jesus. And I know that sounds religious and kind of weird, but the way we say it around here is like, we're just trying to create a room, a space for you to like bump into Jesus, for you to get in a room and have a conversation with Jesus, right? We believe if he wants to teach you anything, that's between the two of you. But if you just had a chance to talk to him, which again sounds really scary, right? Because we all come to church, if we ever come to church, with all this baggage, and the idea of a conversation with Jesus, no thanks, right? I don't need more guilt and shame. I have enough already. But here's my question: what if he's not done with you? Well, I mean, you're done with you, right? I mean, you're doing the best you can, right? I'm trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be a good man. I'm trying to hold it all together. It's not working, but I'm doing my best. Yeah, no stones thrown here, right? Me too. That's what we say, right? But what if he's not done with you? What if there's more? What if your past doesn't have to be, define your future? What if that idea, that thought, that dream you have about you and your life, what if it's still possible to be part of a community that doesn't throw stones at you, but just links arms and goes, let's do this, right? And a Jesus who's all about grace, all about forgiveness. What if Jesus isn't done with you? I'm Jim, and this is Flatirons. So if you're new here, new to the campus or new to whatever, right, this is the church you find yourself in. We love our music. We like it loud. We're not going to turn it down. I don't care how many times you ask. We're going to turn it up louder, probably if the law allows. And then we're going to run after the hearts of men. We're going to speak truth into the hearts of men, strong men, who don't know that they're strong, don't believe that anymore because something's happened in our lives, all right? And then we're gonna run after Jesus. That's Flatirons. And so as I'm putting my thoughts together for this video thing, I go back. 8 years ago, I had a conversation with my dad. 5 years ago, he went to heaven, but 3 years before that, he was out here visiting from Indiana, and I was driving back to the airport, and we were having a conversation in the truck about his childhood, a conversation we had earlier about his childhood and how he was raised and kind of his whole journey. And I look over at my dad, and he's just staring at the dashboard of the truck, and I'm like, hey, Dad, you all right? And he says, Jim, I've always felt like such a hypocrite. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, I'm a minister, I'm a pastor, and I've spent the last 50 years standing in front of people telling them that they have to forgive people, they have to forgive their enemies. And Jim, I've never forgiven my dad for what he did to us. And what my grandpa did to my dad was, he was a really, really mean drunk who kicked the crap, literally, not figuratively, out of my dad every day of his life. My dad told me a story about one time my grandpa was drunk and he had a loaded shotgun, and my dad had to wrestle the gun out of his hand before he shot. He was actually hunting the family in a cornfield, and he took that rifle and he almost bashed my grandpa's head in. That's the legacy my dad had given to him. And he's like, I feel like a hypocrite because I can't forgive him. And I looked at my dad and I almost had to pull over on 470 and go, hey, buddy. I don't call my dad buddy. Dad, you're not a hypocrite. It just makes you real. right? And see, it's his Me Too story. See, and some of us understand this better than others, but forgiving somebody who ruined your life, especially if the person that ruined your life is on the level of, like my dad ruined my life, that's not an event that happens one time at a church service or something like that. That is a journey, and the journey may take you all the rest of your life. It may not even happen until you see Jesus face to face, but it is a journey. It's not an event. So you got to let yourself off the mat. You're trying. You're doing your best, but it's not going to happen all at once. And maybe my dad took a breath that day. I don't know. But that led to more conversations and more conversations. And then as I looked around, I talked to other men who were going through stuff. I said, we got to say something. We got to do something about this. So I had my first idea. Let's do a man series. And the first man series was when we just had one campus across the street here in Lafayette at what's now a Jack store over there. And so I came to the creative department and said, I want to do a series. And the name of the series for men is called Grow a Pair. That's our first series we ever did. And let me tell you what it's about. It's about God gives a man two things. Every man, he gives two things, and they always come in pairs. And sometimes we give them away, or sometimes people take them from us, or sometimes we just lost them along the way. But it always comes in pairs. And what I'm talking about, he gives us things like truth and grace. I don't know what you were thinking about. I don't know. You're bad people. Yeah, he gives you strength and honor. He says provide and protect. They're always, and we lose one or both of them, and we have to take back what God has given to us so we can take care of the people that God has entrusted to us. And something started happening in our church. And then after that, we did another series when we moved over here into this Lafayette campus, all right? And the name of that series is called Reverse Engineering. It's one of my favorite ones ever. It means like this. It's like man or woman, down range, down there. I want my life to look like that. I want my marriage to look like that. I want my family to look like that. I want me to look like that. And I keep shooting my life at it, and I keep missing, and there's something wrong down there. But the truth is, bullets don't lie. They only go. Your life only goes where you point it. So if you want to make any difference, you got to do it uprange right here. And I got to make some difference in my life now if anything's going to be different downrange in my life. That's where this thin red line thing came from. Some of you look at it and see all these men wearing this. What is that thing over there? On the last week of this series, we're going to re-up this, and we're going to kind of recommit ourselves back to that. So that's coming. And then after that, we did a series called I Am That Man. Remember that one? I am that man. I'm just not a normal man. I'm not a common man. I'm uncommon. I have an uncommon mission. It's to take care of Robin and my kids and my grandkids and to lead this church. That's what I'm doing. What's yours? Well, because you're not just an ordinary man. You're who you are. Then out of that came another series called Rewired, how God has wired you up as a man and her up as a woman, and it's different. But when God brings them together, it's beautiful. And when something happens in your life and your wiring gets all screwed up, God can even rewire that and bring you back to who he meant you to be. And then that goes to another series we called Shape, like who am I? What am I supposed to be? What's the shape of a man? What are the characteristics that actually make me into a good man that anybody, a wife, a girlfriend, kids, whatever, would actually trust? And so that's been this theme over the last 8 years of this church, which brings us to this one called Madmen. Madmen, because listen, this is so important what we're doing, running after the hearts of men. And so you say, is this a man series? Kind of, but here's every time we do a man series, the biggest beneficiaries are really women and kids. Because if men would just get their heads out of the sand, kids in the room, all right, right, and just pull some stuff together and get some stuff figured out, women's lives get better, kids' lives get better, the world gets better. Let me tell you how important this is, okay? Because we're going to hit it year after year after year after year. So if you're going, is this the last time we're going to talk about it? No, we're going to talk about it over and over and over again. So if we go back to the last verse of the Old Testament, let me explain what that means, okay? So the Bible's kind of in two sections. There's the page 1, which is like creation. It goes all the way up to the last verse of this, what we're going to look at today. It's the last verse of the Old Testament. Then there's 400 years of nothing. People thought that God had just like forgotten them, and they were praying prayers like, are you there and do you care? And then after 400 years, Jesus is born in Bethlehem. And then you have the New Testament part after that, okay? So the last verse of the Old Testament, and then silence for 400 years, this is God talking. This is God talking, the verse we're going to look at, and he talks about, one day I'm going to send someone, and now we know that's Jesus, so we're just going to call him by name. One day God says, I'm going to send Jesus, and this is what he's going to do, and if people will listen to this is what's going to happen, and if they don't listen to him, this is what's going to happen. So this is God talking, and he says this, so Jesus, when he gets here, he will turn the hearts of who? Fathers, all right? So he's going to do something in the hearts of men, all right? He will turn the hearts of fathers to their children and the hearts of children to their fathers. And if that doesn't happen, unless God comes and strikes the land with a decree of utter what? Things will fall apart if men don't pay attention to what Jesus wants to teach them, right? If men will turn their hearts towards Jesus and agree with who Jesus says we are, and why we're here and what he's entrusted to us. And then out of that confidence, turn our hearts back towards our families, back towards our wife, back towards our girlfriend, back towards these people that God has trusted to us. God says the world will change. The world and its brokenness will start healing. And would you all agree that we live in a world that needs something to change for the better and some healing to take place, especially on the level of family? We all need that, all right? So that could happen if we would just pay attention to who Jesus says we are. But if we don't agree with who Jesus says we are, or let's be honest, we don't know. I have no idea what God thinks about me, all right? Or who he created me to be or what he wants me to do. If we don't know the answer to that, then here's what every man spends their life doing, me included. It goes like this. I'm going to spend my whole life searching and trying and hoping to find the answers to a question that every man on the planet wrestles with every day. What do you mean every man? So I can't talk about the whole world. So let me just talk about this. I don't care how young you are. You're supposed to be in kids ministry, but you snuck in here with your parents. If you can pay attention to me, I'm talking to you. All right? Because let me tell you, little boy, what's about to happen to you. You're going to go a few more years, and then puberty is going to hit, and you're just going to go crazy, all right? And you're like, what's happening? And then you're going to get a little bit older, and then you're going to notice I think I don't want to be single anymore. I think I want to be married. And so you're going to give it a shot, and you're going to get married, but you don't know what you're doing, and so it's not going to work. And then you're going to get unmarried, and you might try that 2 or 3 more times because you don't know who you are. Right? It's over. From puberty all the way to nursing home, you're going to go back to this questions. Who am I? And why am I here? What am I good for? And am I enough to do any of that? See, ladies, I don't know what you think goes on in our heads. It's not all totally crazy, all right? Let me tell you what every man in the world gets out of bed every day, consciously or subconsciously thinking. He's trying to figure out the questions. He gets out of bed and he answers them. Who am I? What am I good for? And why am I here? And am I enough to do that? Right? This is what we're trying to find out. And let me just tell you, stick around, because if you'll just connect with Jesus and listen to what he has to say, yeah, you are enough, and you can figure the answers to the biggest questions of your life out of those answers, and you'll live your life out of that. But if you say, you know what, I don't want to hear what Jesus has to say about me, then figure it out. But how do you know? And who gets to tell you? Who's qualified to look at you and go, let me tell you why you're here. Let me tell you the point of your life, and let me tell you if you're enough. Who in the world is qualified? There's a lot of people who want to try. But who's qualified for you to actually say, I believe that what you say about me is actually true? And that brings me to this, okay? So, sidebar, story time, all right? I love binge watching TV shows. Whatever you think that means, it's more, all right? I mean, if I find something on Netflix going, oh, this is awesome, I can literally sit on my couch from breakfast to breakfast, all right? And just like one, or this is the last one, honey, one more, right? So it's really good when Rob and I are binge watching the same show. Rarely happens. Exceptions, Dexter, Breaking Bad. Our marriage got better, all right? So there's that, okay? But usually Robin will like see something and she'll go, hey, Jim, hey, I found a series, let's watch it together. And I'm like, what is it? And it's like, Call the Midwife or something, Abby. Like, no, let's watch something good, all right? And then I'll throw something out like, how about Silicon Valley or Sons of Anarchy or something cool like that? And then she just looks at me, I wish you were a better man. And there's just like disappointment in her eyes, and she goes upstairs and cries. And then I watch whatever I want to watch, all right? But that's just true, all right? So, but I have hope for Robin, because in the last couple of weeks, in 11 days, she binge watched 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, and she's good, all right? And I mean, I had to feed her, like, honey, you got to eat, babe, and But anyway, so we're good. But so a couple of years ago, I binge watched this show. It's like 7 or 8 seasons of this show called Madmen. Time out here, I'm going to save myself some emails. Whenever we sing a song by a non-Christian artist, or I quote a movie or a TV or show, I'm not saying you should go out and watch it. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying that you should go home and binge watch this TV show at all. It might be horrible. I'm just trying to point to something in it, okay? At least that's how I justify it in my head. All right, so I'm watching this Mad Men series, and it's all based on the life of this guy, and his name's Don Draper. Now just look at him. He's beautiful, all right? I mean, I don't want to go out or date him or anything like that, but look at him, right? He's perfect. He has perfect hair. His hair doesn't move in 7 seasons. It's like that every time. He's got these eyes, and he's like that suit. It costs more than my house and stuff like that. He's absolutely perfect. He is set in the 1960s. He drives this beautiful, blue convertible. He lives in this beautiful house. He has this wife that looks like Marilyn Monroe. He has these 2 beautiful kids. He has an awesome life, and he works in New York City. He in a high-rise apartment or office, and he's in marketing. He's in advertising. His whole life is trying to get people to buy products that he's endorsing, not based on their quality or their merits. He actually is trying to convince them, actually manipulate them, that anything they currently own, whatever model they currently have, that's not enough. But if you'll buy what he is selling you, because this is what you need, this is what you deserve, I promise you'll finally get happy and you'll find satisfaction and that thing missing in your life. If you'll just buy this, finally you'll find out what your life's supposed to be about. Everything from cigarettes to cars to pantyhose. He's saying, listen, all you have to do is buy this. Madmen, Mad is short for Madison Avenue. That's New York City. That's where all the commercials come from, all right? So he's teaching, he's trying to sell us stuff. About 2 or 3 episodes in, there's this other character. She comes into the show, and she's kind of an apprentice trying to figure out the business of how to get involved in the marketing business so she can be like him. And so he takes her aside, and he kind of tells her like the whole key to advertising and marketing. And basically, it goes like this. He says, people tell you who they are. So we have people come in all the time. Clients come in and say, this is what our heart is. This is what we want to do. This is what we think that we need, okay? People tell you who they are, but we ignore them because we want them to be who we want them to be. All right? People show up and go, I think I need this. No, that's not what you need. Let me tell you what you need, because let me tell you who you are. Now, that's the whole premise of the whole series, all right? But after just a few episodes, this perfect Don Draper, it looks like everything is perfect in his life and everybody wants to be him. We find out that it's all fake. It's all a facade. His whole life is a sales pitch and it's empty. Just like the products that he's selling. Like just again, halfway through the first episode, you notice, man, he drinks a lot. Yeah, because he's an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic. And then I tried to actually count up the amount of women that he had sexual affairs with. I lost count at 17. Right, in just a few seasons, all right? He's a terrible husband, he's a horrible father, and everybody hates him. Not to his face. To his face, everybody tells him, boss, you're the best. You're the greatest. But behind his back, his employees hate him. His partners hate him. His wife hates him. His kids despise him, especially his daughter. She hates the air he breathes, right? And as you're watching the season, something happens in his life, and his life hits a wall, and he looks around for the people who are supposed to be there for him, and he realizes, I'm totally alone because nothing in my life is real. It's all marketing. It's all false advertisement. My whole life is empty promises. Now, let me tie this together. So, Jim, why did you pick that happy theme for us to spend a month on, right? Because let's be honest, men or women, right? And we have to be honest in this. But the truth is, the reality of our lives is that believing empty sales pitches, right, and getting duped by deceitful marketing schemes that overpromised happiness and fulfillment and then underdelivered every time. If you look at your life, all that stuff that we bought has played a significant role in most of the chaos and the pain and the confusion and the biggest regrets of our life up to this point. We bought a line, we bought a product. And I'm not talking about pantyhose and cars and cigarettes. I'm talking about we bought a sales pitch about who we are and why we're here and what we're worth, our identity, our worth, and our purpose. Right? Because whatever sales line we've bought, maybe we bought it from our parents, maybe we bought it from what happened to us, maybe we bought it by that horrible thing that happened, maybe we bought it from something really, really good that happened in our life. Whatever sales pitch that we believe, that's how we run our marriage. That's how we run our life. That's how we raise our kids. That's how we point our money. That's what we do with our bodies, comes out of the sales pitch that we bought, that we accepted. It may be right, it may be wrong, we don't know, but that is who we are. Now let's tie Jesus into this, okay? Let's go back to that line again. People tell you who they are, so you think you know who you are, but there's somebody else that ignores that because that somebody else wants you to be who they want you to be. Not who you are. There's somebody else says, I'd like to actually define you, and it's different than who you actually are. What's that mean, all right? Well, here's what I think it means. I believe whether you're a Christian or non-Christian, whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, no matter man or woman, young or old, whatever, here's what I believe. I believe there is just something inside of you. And I would even build a case that something is the image of God, because I believe every man and woman on the planet is created in the image of God. And he puts something inside of you that you just know from the first time you can think, the first questions you ask are, what am I supposed to do with my life? And does anybody care about me? And am I worth caring about? These are these questions inside of you. And intuitively, you know I'm supposed to be somebody, and I have some value, and I'm supposed to do something with my life. And God is inside of you going, I know, let me tell you what that is. And that'd be great if God was the only voice speaking to who we are, but God is not the only voice, right? There's voices all over saying, no, this is who you are, and this is how much you're worth, and this is what you ought to do with your life, and I'll tell you if you're enough or not. So All right, so story, okay? So Labor Day, so last Monday, I took all four, I have 4 grandkids, another one on the way. So I took all 4 grandkids up to a cabin in the mountains, and we played all day, and it was fun, most of the time. All right, so my name's Pop-Up, okay? So I did a great Pop-Up thing. I got on Amazon, and I bought the biggest barrel of Lincoln Logs that they make, all right? And a lot of kids don't even know what Lincoln Logs are anymore because you're abuse children. That's what it is, because you should know what Lincoln Logs are. So, and these kids, they didn't know what Lincoln Logs are. So I opened the big barrel and I poured them out on this big table and like, Papa, what's this? And I went, you build stuff with it, all right? And so I showed them how they all link together. And over the next couple of hours, they started building stuff. And every once in a while, they would look over me and go, hey, Papa, look. You know what they were not looking for? Criticism. Well, the roof's actually supposed to go on the top. And they weren't looking for that at all. You know what they were looking for and asking for? Confirmation about how great they are. Look, Papa, look what I built. Buddy, that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And you know what the response was? I know, I'm creative, I'm amazing, all right? And I thought, I know, you really are. And they're so creative, like Jonah loves to pretend, he's 5. Jonah loves to pretend. And if you ask him, are you good at pretending? This is a quote, I'm the best pretender ever. It gets creepy, all right? The other day, he hip checked his 2-year-old brother into the wall, and his dad goes, Jonah, what part of your heart wanted to do that? And he goes, this is what a 5-year-old said. He was 4 at the time. He said, Dad, I have a really dark part in my heart and a bad angel named Silas that lives there. That's specific. That's like, it's like, It's scary stuff. And you're like, oh, wow. All right, but he loves pretending. And maybe he believes that he can be like, in one moment, he can be a T-Rex, like, and then he has an idea, and then he's Optimus Prime. Just on a whim, he can just switch gears. He can be anything he wants to be. So about halfway through the afternoon, I took all 4 kids we have these rocks to climb on, a little waterfall there. And I had Emery, our 4-year-old, and I had her by the hand, and she was terrified. So, come on, baby, you can do this. So we're walking up the waterfall, and it's kind of slippery. And she's like, I'm gonna fall and get wet. I went, time out. Okay. So at the cabin, Pop-Up's king, all right? And so there's different rules here. So if you fall down in the creek, it doesn't matter. Your mom's not here. She's down in the cabin. That's what she's doing, right? Down there. And that's not true. She's 6 months pregnant. She's not, all right? So she better not be. Anyway, so Emma's like, okay. And so we climbed up the rocks. And she's like, I'm gonna fall. And so we finally get to the top of the rock pile in the waterfall. And I turn around, and she looks down. And picture a little 4-year-old girl, weighs about 12 pounds. She looks down the hill and goes, ah! This is so cool, right? And she goes, I did it. I did it. I know, baby, you did it. And I don't know what she was thinking, but whatever she was feeling was very similar to the first person that climbed Mount Everest, because in her mind, I just accomplished that. She looked down that big pile of rocks and went, and you just see, I'm the best rock climber in the history of rocks. I can do anything. I'm unstoppable. And she wasn't being cocky, and she wasn't being arrogant. She actually believed it. I can do anything I want. And you look at that, and you're nodding your head like, oh, that's so sweet, and she's so wrong. Because she's naive, and she's inexperienced, she doesn't know how the world works. And I agree with you, right? I'm going to say it better, okay? I think she's a blank page waiting to be written on. And over the next several months and years of her life, somebody is going to write on the page of her life, and they're going to try to write down and tell her who she is and what she can do and what she's not allowed to even try. They're going to tell her, like, hey, so little girl, all right, or woman, whatever that is, things like this are possible for you, but things like this are not possible for you. And listen, this is what you're good for, and this is what you're not good for. And this is what you're worth, or this is what you're not worth. And over the next several years and decades of her life, there's a lot of people and experiences, good and bad, they're going to write on the page of her life. She's going to try some things, and she's going to do really well at them, and she's going to be a success, and she's going to write that down on the page of her life, and then she's going to try something else, and maybe it's her fault or somebody else's fault, and she's going to fall flat on her face, and that's going to go on the page, and out of that, she's going to determine who she is. Does that make sense? Here's a question. Who decides, who gets to write on her page? Let's get more specific. Who gets to write on your page? Who gets to write on that? This is who you are. This is why you're here. This is what you're worth. And I'll tell you, if you're enough, I'll write it in plain English right there for you to read it. And what is the message that she will take on? Because we're all going to buy a sales pitch, right? And she's gonna buy a sales pitch, and she's gonna live her life out of that. And she's gonna answer questions based on what's written on her page from all these voices and people and experiences in her life. And she's gonna come up with an answer, and you're gonna come up with an answer. It goes like this: who am I? Well, read the page. What am I good for? Apparently this. And why am I here? There's a lot of opinions on the matter there, and am I enough? This is what we're all wrestling through. Everybody, again, I want to say in the world, but I'm just going to talk about sitting here listening to my voice right now. Everybody is trying to live their, everybody's not trying, everybody's living their life out of what's written on their page. We get out of bed every day, we read that, and we go, that's what I'm worth, that's my point, that's my purpose, I'm going to go live like that. Or we live our lives going, I don't want that to be true, so we live our lives trying to overcome what somebody else wrote on our page. Again, there's no shortage of people willing to tell us their opinion, right? So here's what this series is going to be about if you decide to come back. What if, big what if you knew what God wrote on your page? And not just knew it, because we all know it. You can read in the Bible, it's right there in plain English. It's right there, right? Read it, that's what God says about you. But what if you didn't just know it? What if you actually believed it? Because we know a lot of things, we just don't believe it, at least for ourselves. Let me put it in the form of a question. If you knew in your head and believed in your heart, and then you lived out of what God says is true about you, would it change anything? Any part of your life? If you really agreed with God about who he says you are, men or women, old or young, single, married, whatever that is, all right? And you agree with who he says you are and what you're worth, would your marriage be different? Would you do different things with different people? Would you spend your money different? Would you parent different? Would you do friendship different? Would you use your body for different things? Would you use other people's bodies in a different way? If you really agreed with what Jesus says is true. So here's what I want to do over the next 3 or 4 weeks in here is I want to go back and I just want to look at one story from the life of Jesus. It's the first time we see Jesus as an adult in the Bible. So I mean, before this, in all the biographies of Jesus, you see like the Christmas story, and there's the angels and the shepherds and the manger and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a little gap, and then he's like 12 or 13 years old, and he's hanging out with his parents. And then that ends with, and then he grew up. And there's 18 years of silence where he's just a carpenter. He's working construction back in Nazareth. We don't hear anything about him. And then the first mention of him again, he's 30 years old. He shows up at this river in the middle of Israel, and his cousin John the Baptist, we talked about a few weeks ago, is baptizing people, and Jesus shows up. And when he gets there, John is saying this to all the people listening to him. He's saying, hey, listen, God is about to keep his promise that he made back there through the Old Testament, the prophets, right? And he's going to send someone. And when that someone gets here, he's going to make it possible, no matter what you've done or who you are or what you think about yourself, it's possible for you to reconnect with God and be in his kingdom. So if that's true, you might want to rethink your life. And in the middle of that speech, Jesus shows up, and John baptizes him. All right? Now, in about a month, we're going to do baptisms. We're going to end this series with baptism. So at all of our campuses, we will have these inflatable pools, and people will get baptized. Now, when we baptize today, it's an outward sign washing of Jesus' blood washing away our sins. Water doesn't wash away our sins. Jesus washes away our sins because we have sins, and we need them taken away so that we can be connected to God. But when Jesus was baptized, he didn't have any sins. Right? So his baptism was a little bit different. His baptism was, as an example for us, but also in that culture, whenever you started a new section of your life, you'd go through this initiation or the ceremonial washing, and when you came up out of that water, from that point on, your life was going to be pointed in a new direction. And that's what Jesus was baptized for. From this point on, his life will be about one purpose. He's going to walk one road in one direction. He's going to have one mission of his life. And it's going to end on a cross in about 3 years. He's going to do everything necessary so we can reconnect to God. And from the time he comes up out of that river on, that's what his life's about. So we're going to pick up right after John is bringing him back up out of the water from baptizing him. It says this: as soon as Jesus was baptized, Jesus went up out of the water. So he gets baptized, he walks up on the side of the bank of the river. At that moment, heaven was opened. Now, time out. What's that mean? I'm not sure. All right, I don't know if it's some like some supernatural, like the sky like split and there's God. Hello, I don't know if it's like that. In my mind, I think it's like God suspended normal and said, I'm gonna do something abnormal. That doesn't happen every day. I'm just gonna kind of lift the rules for a second, and I'm gonna step into your reality. All right, but anyway, heaven was opened, and Jesus saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him, coming and resting on him. And a voice from heaven said, "This is my Son, whom I love, and with him I am well pleased." Now, listen, okay, you agree with me on this. After this, Jesus is about to take on the toughest mission in history. right? He's about to pour out his life for the next 3 years, doing everything for everybody else, not asking anything for himself, all right? He's gonna lay down his life for other people. He's gonna teach people about, that put up a white flag on all the parts of their life. He's gonna say, no, there's still hope, and you can still have a future in the kingdom with God. He's gonna demonstrate to the most rejected, hated people in society, people that religion looks at and go, we should just bash her head in with a stone and send her to hell and get her out of our way. He's gonna pick up girls like that and look them in the face and go, look at me. I love you. I love you. This is what love looks like. And this is what your Father actually thinks about you. He's gonna do that year after year after year. And after 3 years, I don't know how many people he talked to, thousands, millions, I don't know. But at the end of 3 years, only a handful said, I believe. Almost everybody rejected him. Nobody said thank you. I can find in the Bible. Most rejected him, walked away from him, persecuted him. To his face, they said, that's really, really good. And then they worked behind him, behind his back. And then the people he called his closest friends in the end betrayed him. And he knew what he was signing up for before he walked into that river. He knew that when I do this, my road is in one direction. 3 years from now, an angry mob is going to nail me to a cross, and they're going to scream at me and say, we totally hate you and reject you and God and grace and your version of truth. And he knows that. And before he takes one step down that road after being baptized, God calls a timeout and goes, I want to say something. I want to say something. And God makes 3 huge statements, answers 3 big questions, and writes on the page of Jesus' life. So the questions go like this. Jesus, you want to know who you are? You're my son. Can you imagine standing there on the side of the river and hearing this? Like the heavens open, all right? There's a guy standing over there, a wet guy with a bird on his shoulder, right? And the voice comes out of heaven going, see, that's my son. All right, and what's he good for? How much is he worth? I love him. Announcement, everybody. That's my son. I absolutely love him. And why is he here? Because I'm well pleased. I'm really well pleased. And I did a big word study on this well pleased thing because I just thought it meant he's just pleased really well. I didn't know what it meant. So I did some more studying. So why am I here? This is what Jesus heard when his Father says, I'm well pleased. It means this: God's heart is set on me. Like he's focused on me. He intends good for me, so he's going to protect me, and he will accomplish something good through me. And I trust him. Think about how awesome it would be to have that kind of clarity in your life. Right? Imagine you're facing like this big decision. What am I going to do? Am I going to get married? Am I going to get divorced? Am I going to get sober? Am I going to go back to the bar? Can I have kids? Can I do this? Can I do that? All these big questions. And anytime that you have big like decisions to make, you see like if I get this right, it could be good. But if I get it wrong, it's just going to have huge consequences. And this is what goes through most of our heads. We're going, you know what? I don't know. I don't think I am enough, and I don't think I can do this. And I think I'm going to run away and bail. And you're about to hit that button. Can you imagine if whatever you're facing right before you bail on it, God does that, right? I'll give you a couple of examples, all right? So let me just talk to the men here, all right? Married men, all right? And if you're not married, pay attention, all right? Hey, do you remember when you proposed? Like you paced and you had Imodium going like, oh, all right? And so finally you go, okay, I'm gonna do it. And you look at her and you go, hey, do you wanna spend the rest of our lives together till like we're dead? Or so hopefully it's better than that, all right? So will you marry me? And she looked back and went, yes. And you're like, really? All right. And then from that moment on, it was out of your hands. She went wedding crazy, all right? So she planned this wedding, stuff like that. And finally you came to this day, all right? And so I'll just go to my day, all right? So we're in this little church in Indiana, all right? And all this stuff's going up out there. And I'm in a room, and I got 3 buddies with me. And they're like going, hey, Jim, are you ready for this? I'm like, yeah, I got this. But in my head, I'm in a different place, right? I hear music out there. I hear all this kind of stuff. And here's what's going through my head. What am I doing? I cannot do this. I am not qualified. I cannot take care of her. I mean, she didn't even know the truth about me. There's so much stuff I never told her. And I'm not telling her today, I promise that, all right? But you know what I have noticed is that there's a door right there, and there's a sidewalk that leads to a parking lot that has my car, and I could be in Canada by noon, all right? And this goes through my head, like I can't do this, and I can't do this to her. She would be better off without me, and I think I'm gonna leave. Can you imagine in that moment, guys, when you're feeling that, right? That the roof of the church like goes, brrr, and a light shines in and a bird lands on your shoulder, and then this voice goes, hey, you're my son. Yes, sir, right? And I love you, and I'm gonna turn you into the best husband. You're gonna take care of her, you're gonna provide for her, you're gonna protect her, and you don't have to do this by yourself because I'll do every day of your marriage with you. Do you believe me? Yes, I do. And then here's what happened, right? They're gonna knock on the door and go, you ready? I'm like, yeah, dang right, I'm ready. And you get out and you walk to the front of the church, you don't wait for the preacher to go, do you? Hey, say, I do. I'm with you, girl. Come on, let's go. And you go to honeymoon, right? Can you imagine walking into your marriage with that much confidence? And would it have made a difference if you really thought that you were God's man for this marriage? And I say, yeah. Let me give you another one, all right? So this is mostly for women, but this probably talks mostly to parents, all right? Do you remember after like 15, 20 hours of really intense pain, and then they sent you home twice, and then they said, because they don't know what they're doing. And then you came back, and finally you have all this labor pain and all this, you're in delivery, and you're going through your mind, you're going, I can't do this. There's no way. I know women have done this for thousands of years, but I don't know if I can do this. And then you do it. You did it, right? And then they hand you this little thing, and you go, this is your daughter. And you go like, oh, and this is what's going on in our heads, right? Parents, right? What am I supposed to do with it? Because it kind of looks like, this is what I said to my baby. She kind of looks like Smurf. She's blue and pointy head and all that kind of stuff. And I'm scared to death. I can't do this. Here's a scarier moment, right? Is that somebody goes home with you, some in-laws or parents or something like that, or your friends, whatever, and then a day comes when they go, okay, we have to go back to our lives, and then that door closes and you're sitting in the living room with your husband or wife or whatever, and then that baby is there on the couch and you're like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And like, I don't know, Craigslist? I don't know, because this baby, we're going to ruin her. We're going to screw her up, whatever. Can you imagine in that moment if like the roof of your house opened up and this voice said to you, hey girl, listen, that's your daughter laying on the couch, but you're my daughter and I love you and I'll take care of you. And both of you, I'm going to make you into these parents and you're going to accomplish amazing things in this little girl's life and you're going to raise her up to be this woman of God and you're going to point her towards Jesus and she's going to follow me because I'm going to do every day with you. Can you imagine if you went into parenting with that confidence? Would it have made a difference? See, for the big things of life, we got to have that level of confidence or we're not going to survive, because Jesus walks out of that river and then he walks into the desert and Satan comes at him from every side. And comes into the same thing he comes with us about, right? Let go of who Jesus says you are. Let go of what Jesus says you're worth and take on something else and believe something different about yourself. See, if you look at your life and everything that's screwed up and everything you've done wrong in your life, right? If you go back to the first thoughts that ended up in that pig pen, all right? It all started with this question. Can you really trust God? I don't know. Maybe I can't trust God, because this is what Satan, we're going to look at over the next several weeks. This is what the devil came at Jesus with. Hey, if you are the Son of God, and I'm calling that into question because maybe you're not. What if you're not who God says you are? I mean, if God was your father, would you be out here in the middle of a desert starving to death? And if God's your father and he's not going to take care of you, maybe you should take care of yourself. Let go of God. Do what you need to do. Or how about this? What if God doesn't really love you? I mean, again, when Satan asked Jesus that question, look at your life. He's really, really hungry. What if God doesn't love you? Because it doesn't look like he loves you. Can we be really, really honest? We are. Okay, we're going to be really honest. If you're honest, you can look at times in your life where you've looked up at God and said, this is love? My life, this is you love me? Because I don't think you're paying attention, because my life is painful and hard and it doesn't make sense. And this is your love for me? It doesn't feel loving. I feel empty inside. And maybe I need to take care of myself. Maybe I need to fill my own heart up, because obviously you're not going to do it. Anybody been there? Or how about this? I know God has a plan for my life and a plan for my marriage and a plan for my happiness and a plan for, all right, but what if I could do something better without him? What if I could figure things out, a way to be happy and a way to be satisfied and fulfilled? And here's how it comes in my head. Who are you to tell me what to do? Nobody's going to tell me what to do. No, don't tell me what's right for me. Don't tell me what's true for me. I'll run my life, and I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm tempted to let go of God and hold on to me. And the only way Jesus survives that, it's not just 40 days, it's the next 3 years, right up till when they nail him to a cross. The only way he survives it, and the only way we're going to survive, is the same thing. He goes back to a day in a river when a voice said and spoke some truth and wrote on the page of his life and says, you are my son, and I do love you, and I'm really well pleased with you, and I have a plan for your life. You can trust me. So I'm almost done. We're a little bit late, but would it make a difference? Would it make a difference? Let me just talk to men, right? If you really believed that when God looks at you, he goes, you're my son. You're my daughter. And I'm your dad, right? Would it make a difference if when you read in the Bible, hear someone like me say that God loves you? Would it make a difference if you not just knew it was true, but believed it in your heart that he loves you, not because he's required to, because he's God and he has to love everybody? Actually, no, he doesn't have to, all right? But what if God actually has the ability to look into you and go, I see something in you that actually I think is worth loving. You don't see it, but I see that. Or how about this? God says, I have a plan to use your life, and I'm going to accomplish things in your life, and you don't understand it, but I'm going to use all the parts of your life. I'm going to use your past, not the good parts of your past, all the parts of your past, the broken, messy parts. Jesus has the ability to reach in there, take the mess and the screw-ups of my life, and turn them around and redeem them for something good, and uniquely qualify me to do something he wants me to do that nobody else on the planet is qualified for. You know what uniquely qualifies you? Nobody's gone through your cancer. Nobody's gone through your divorce. Nobody got the crap beat out of them like you have. Nobody buried the child like you did. Nobody understands your life better than you. And God wants to take all the parts of your life, turn around and redeem them to use something in somebody else's life that only you are qualified for. Would it make a difference? Ladies, can you imagine that the most significant man in your life, maybe it was your dad, maybe it's your husband, it's your boyfriend, it's your old whatever, right? Can you imagine what your life would look like if that man actually believed he was a son of God and God loved him and he got out of bed and approached life and you and family and everything as this strong, secure, confident man? You look across the dinner table at him and just the thought goes through your head, he actually believed he's God's man and he would lay down his life and protect me and the kids and me and my life. He would do anything to provide for me. Can you imagine that? Because we have no problem imagining what it looks like when he doesn't. Because we got run over by that man, a lot of us. My dad got crushed by that man, right? He gets out of bed every day trying to work out his crap, which usually lands on you, right? And he's trying to prove to himself or some imaginary voice, or there's somebody in his life that said something to him and they're dead, but the voice is still there. And he looks at that page and goes, that's what it says I am, and I'm going to prove that's not who I am. And he proves it on you. But what if he agreed with what God says is true about him and lived out of that kind of confidence? Would it make a difference? Let's go back to the song. Is that his shot at becoming a better man if he agreed with Jesus? And how about this? Would you trust him? Would you finally be able to trust a man who says, I'm God's man and he loves me and I'm going to serve him by loving you? Let me talk to kids, all right? Would you feel safe if you knew that your dad had nothing to prove, but actually was confident and secure in who he was in God and didn't have to get up every day and then go work 80 hours a week to make some money because maybe that'll make him enough, but you haven't seen him in 2 weeks, and then he comes home and he joins 3 softball games because he turned 40 and he's wondering if he's still got it, you know? What if he actually came home every day and just says, you're my life? And I'll die, I'll protect you, I'll provide for you, I'll drive you crazy, but I love you. Would you feel safe? Would you feel safe with that kind of man? Hey, ladies, how about let's just lean into you, all right? Would you live any part of your life differently if you honestly believe that when God looked at you, he goes, you're my girl? I walked in the house yesterday. I was hanging out with some buddies in the morning, and I walked in the house, and Ben, my son-in-law, is up at men's retreat teaching. And so Allie, she's due in December. She got 2 toddlers, and she was over at our house. And I walked in, I just looked over at her, and she just looked tired. And she goes, hey, Dad. I went, come here, babe. Can you imagine if God walked in a room and saw you? He goes, come here, babe. And he put his arm around you. Would that change anything? Would it change anything? Is it when you really believe that when he sees you, he sees something in you that he just loves? You don't see it. You look in the mirror and you're like, you're horrible, you're fat, you're this, you're old, you're wrinkled, you're not enough, all right? But what if God has the ability to look at you and go, you know, I think that when I look at you, I'm very well pleased with what I see. Can you imagine that? Would you believe it? He wants to use you to do something nobody else is qualified to do. If you really believe, we say this all, here's another version of it. Ladies, if you really believe that you could get from God what you can only get from God, and you know what I'm talking about, there's this thing inside of you going, I need to have some answers, some questions answered. You can only get it from God, but if you could get it from God, would that change how you see yourself? And would it change maybe your need to run from man to man to man? It started with your dad, and it started with a string of boyfriends, and now a string of husbands trying to answer that question. But if you could really get it from God, do you think it's actually possible that you could believe confidently that you are beautiful and important? Would your life be different if you actually answered that question with, I am God's son, I am God's daughter, he does love me, and he's going to use something in my life to do something good in the world. Identity, worth, purpose drive everything. So some questions, a story, and we're out of here. What do you think Jesus sees in you? Because that's your worth, however you answer that. How do you think Jesus, what he thinks about you? Complete this sentence. When Jesus looks at me, I think he says, you are what's the next word? Because that's your worth. Right or wrong, that's how you live your life. And how do you think, or do you think Jesus can actually use someone like you? Because that's your purpose. I think it's worth figuring out, right? Okay, story, and we're out of here. Okay, so I went on this retreat, all right? And every time I go on a retreat, if I go to Africa, I go on a retreat, just get ready, buckle up, I come back a little crazier, all right? That was nervous laughter. It's like, what's he gonna say? So I'm up there in the mountains, and so I'm up there in the mountains. It's a spiritual retreat, and so I don't have any music, I don't have anything, whatever. I have 2 dogs, that's all I have, and the birds, and all that. So every day, what I would do is I would go out. Well, my friend James, he's kind of like a spiritual like mentor in my life. He gave me these assignments every day to read a little part of the Bible every day, and I'm like, okay. So on Wednesday, I look at what am I supposed to read today, and it's the story of the prodigal son, all right? It's a wonderful story that Jesus told about this boy that runs away, squanders his life, really screws it up, ends up in a pig pen. And I saw the assignment for the day, and I went, I have read that story so many times, right? Like thousands, I mean, right? And I taught it probably hundreds of times, and I looked at the assignment, and I went, I have mined every bit of truth out of that can be mined out of it. Let's do something new, all right? But nope, I have to read the prodigal son because James is gonna ask me, did you read the prodigal son? I don't wanna lie. I could, but I don't want to, all right? So I read the prodigal son, blah, 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 blah. Did it, okay? So every day about 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, this is the weird part, all right? I would go out into the woods and there's these 2 rocks, all right? And I would sit on a rock and I would picture Jesus sitting on the other rock. He wasn't, I haven't lost it, I'm on meds, but I know it wasn't Jesus, all right? So I look across and I see Jesus there and I talk out loud to him. I know it's weird, but the dogs didn't judge me, so don't you, all right? So I'm having this conversation with Jesus and I'm sitting on this rock and this is what I said to the creator of the universe. I went, hey buddy, I called the Lord buddy, all right? So I said, hey buddy, I carved out 6 days for you and I'm getting nothing. And you're on the clock and then I have to go home. So give me something, Lord, all right? So I try, right? And here's what I wanted. It's like I had some thoughts going in my head and I have some sin I struggle with. I'm not gonna tell you about all that kind of, and it's like it keeps coming back up and I want something to fix it so I don't have to deal with it anymore. And so I'm like, Jesus, give me something. Give me a burning bush, right on that tree over there, make the dog talk. I don't know. Split the heavens and go, blah, there's the answer, all right? I need this emotional experience that will change my life forever. And this is what I got, okay? I pictured Jesus sitting on a rock looking back at me. This is what his face looked like. Which just made me mad. Jesus is going, I did. I was like, you're making me mad, Lord, all right? And so I'm just sitting there going, you're not gonna give me anything? I just need, so then I had this idea, this thought, and this is how it always happens. I remember that prodigal son song, the story. And I read it thousands of times. The version of the Bible that I've always read has that son ended up in a pig pen, but before he goes home, it says this, great line there. It says, he came to his senses and remembered his father. Great line, all right? But for some reason, the version of the Bible I read that day changed it and said, he came to himself. He came to himself and remembered his father. And I went, he came to himself. What? He came to himself. He remembered himself. He remembered who he was, and then he ran home to his father. And then I looked at Jesus and I went, you're not going to tell me who I am because you've already told me, and you're going to sit here on this rock until I remember what you already said is true about me. Is that it? And he went. It's really annoying on that retreat. And I said, you already told me I'm good, right? You told me I'm forgiven. You told me I'm covered with grace. You told me I'm a good man. I'm a good leader. I'm the right man for Robin. I'm the right man for kids. I'm the right man to lead this church for this season. I'm good. I'm strong. Is that it, Lord? And he went. And then I just got overwhelmed in the woods. And I want to say I danced around. I'm not going to tell you if I danced around or not, but no, I didn't. But I just was overwhelmed with joy and peace and happiness. And that was in July, and it's still here. Because I forgot, and now I now remember. I came to myself, and I remember who I am. Do you know who you are? And what's that based on? Who told you? What's written on your page? How much are you worth? What are you good for? And are you enough to pull it off? And the answer is in Jesus. Let's go find out. Because there's a lot of people waiting on us to get some stuff figured out, to be God's man, God's woman. All right? So let's stand up, all four of our campuses. This is what's going to happen, okay? I'm going to pray, say amen, and then leave. We're not singing another song. I went long, all right? So we cut the song, all right? So I'm going to pray, and don't stare at me awkwardly like, should we leave now? Like now, okay? Amen. Go home, eat lunch, all right? So, Lord, so we're going to start a journey here, and the most important things are not events, they're journeys. And we're not going to get there all at once. We're not going to get there all in one series, but we're going to take a step in your direction, and we're going to get out this big eraser, or you are, and you're going to start taking things off our page that have no right to be there, and you're going to write new things about us, or old things that we've forgotten, who we are, who we are to you, how much we're worth, and what you want to do in our life. And maybe, God, if we can figure that out with your help and your grace, parts of our world, parts of our life, the most important parts, will start coming back together and be healed. So we're going to follow you. Teach us about Jesus as he teaches us about who we are. In Jesus' name, amen.